World Mission Society Church of God claims to be Christian, but they worship a Korean man by the name of Ahn Sahng-hong, with whom they believe is Jesus Christ reincarnated. Not only has this man died in 1985, he never claimed to be Christ, and he never performed any miracles. Quite the contrary to the true Jesus we know. First, the Jesus we know made it very clear who he was. He preached outright, "I am the way and the truth and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me." Jesus did not come down here to be unclear. Ahn Sahng-hong, on the other hand, never claimed to be the Christ. As a matter of fact, it wasn't until after his death that his followers started calling him the Christ because they felt he had interpreted Scripture well. My next point, the Jesus we know performed great miracles that gave proof of his supernatural being. He healed the sick, he cast out demons, he walked on water, he calmed the storms, he raised man and child from the death, and he raised from death himself. Ahn Sahng-hong, on the other hand, never performed any miracles. And to this point, his followers argue, oh, it's because he returned as a more discreet Christ to reclaim only his true sheep. Okay, my last and final, irrefutable and undeniable point is this: the Jesus we know did not die. That's right, he was brutally beaten, he was hung, and he temporarily died, only to rise 3 days later, as noted, by an empty grave and a completely healed body. That's right. Witness accounts after the empty grave sighting were that Jesus was completely healed, and he continued to teach for an additional 40 days and then ascended into the sky. You see, the core problem with World Mission Society Church of God is that they do not believe in the ascension of Jesus Christ. They say, oh, but it is impossible for flesh to survive in outer space. Let me rephrase. They say that Jesus Christ's flesh, the Son of God's flesh, the flesh that was brutally beaten, nailed, torn, and then hung on a cross, and then miraculously healed, cannot survive outside of this world? That's too big of a miracle? And then they go on to cherry pick 2 verses in the Bible. One is Daniel 7:13-14, the other Jude 1:12. Both passages compare man to clouds. And they further go on with a preposterous story that Jesus' spirit would return in another man, another cloud. Let me tell you, Jesus' spirit is not going to return in another man. Jesus is not going to reincarnate into anything because Jesus has his own body. How do I know this? Don't take my word for it. Let's see what the Word has to say about this. In Acts 1:1-11, you can read the entire story of Jesus' ascension, not just some cherry-picked verse. Okay, Jesus' disciples watched as Jesus was taken up before their very eyes, and what? A cloud hid him from their sight. Jesus rose into the clouds, people. Literal clouds, because sometimes clouds just mean clouds. This is not figurative. Angels then came to them and said, "Men of Galilee, this same Jesus who has been taken from you into heaven will come back in the same way you have seen him go into heaven." So what's that mean? That means the same Jesus that the disciples watched ascend is the same Jesus that will return in the clouds. Literally. Therefore, Jesus has not reincarnated into another man. And Ahn Sahng-hong is not the Christ. Mwah.